In the previous module, we learned that notes whose frequencies form low whole number ratios sound harmonious. So if I go from 1 to 5, counting the white piano keys on the piano keyboard, I get a 7 semitone separation. And as we learned in the previous module, that gives me a ratio of 3 to 2. 3 to 2 is the lowest ratio you can get between two keys within this octave. Now, if I go down and have a 4 semitone separation, then I get a 5 to 4 ratio. And that also is going to sound good because it's a small whole number ratio. So if I combine the 1 and the 5 and the 1 and the 3 and play all three notes together, they sound good because each combination has a small whole number ratio. Therefore, when we combine them, the result is also harmonious. Now, often musicians refer to the numbered white keys on the piano keyboard. If you start at C and just count the white keys, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, the reason musicians sometimes refer to 1, 3, and 5, that is, counting off the number of keys in the sequence, is because if I slide this whole thing down to F, then I get F, A, C, and because the whole number ratios are still the same, it's also going to sound good. So generally, a chord is named by the note that begins the chord. In this case, this would be called a C chord. And this would be called an F chord. And in both cases, it sounds good because in both cases, the whole number ratios of even though the absolute frequencies change, the relative frequencies of one note to the next remain the same. So we can extend this by going on down to G. And once again, it still sounds good because once again, the relative frequencies are still the same. So therefore, if we refer to the 1, the 3, and the 5 combination, that combination of 1, 3, and 5 is going to sound good anywhere on the piano keyboard. And in fact, or for that matter on a guitar, and in fact, the blues, the 12-bar blues, are formed from these three chords: the C chord, the F chord, and the G chord. There are two reasons that these three chords are popular. One is that all three chords sound good. They sound harmonious because they combine tones that have small whole number ratios. But the other reason is because it reduces the memory load. Because although you slide up and down the scale, we have a 1 to 4 semitone separation and a 1 to 7 semitone separation. If we refer to the relative positions that rather than absolute notes, because as we learned in the well-tempered scale, we can slide anywhere up and down the keyboard and we'll get the same relative ratio. And so we're going to be exploring in this module that we're doing this week these three chords: the C chord, the F chord, and the G chord. These three chords are used in literally thousands of blues songs that can be dated back as far as the 16th century. It all goes back to, we trace it all the way back to Africa. And then we can trace it up through the 19th century and into the 1930s with Robert Johnson playing the blues with these same three chords, the same 12-bar blues. So we're going to be exploring this, but what we'd like to do in this activity is add another note. So we have 3 notes, but what happens if you add a 4th note that's a little bit disharmonious? What if I add this, or if I add this, If I add the G sharp, then it's going to sound a little bit dissonant. And so a blues player rarely plays things exactly the way they are in the traditional form. They almost always vary it. One of the ways they sometimes vary it is by adding a fourth note to the chord that's not as harmonious. So what we'd like you to do is take one of these three chords, the C chord, the F chord, or the G chord, and we'd like you to come up with the fourth note that adds a little bit of dissonance that sounds pleasing to you, that gives it that bluesy sound. We'll hope you'll have fun exploring this, and we're looking forward to seeing what kinds of chords that you come up with. And then you'll have a chance to use those chords in your own blues, 12-bar blues song that you'll compose.